So there are quite a few different points that we wanted to cover on pricing, because there's lots to think about when you want to price yourself.
Yeah.
So the first point is it all depends on the situation. I know that obviously we said before the AOI basically explains it's okay to charge depending on the client and the size of the client. So that's one thing. Don't charge for time. I think it's good to base your prices on how much you want to earn per hour, but don't just charge for time.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things.
There's so many different factors to take in. So don't just charge for time, also charge for usage. So if you charge X amount for your, let's say, if you charge £30 for a t-shirt design, and this design is going to ASOS.
Don't charge £30
Do
for
not
ASOS,
charge
by the way.
Yeah, no, but
charge
I'm just saying.
£10,000. No, I'm joking.
$1 million.
$1 million.
So if you do want to charge £30 for a design and it's going to someone, like going to ASOS, take into account how many lots they are selling. So I know that Laura does this. Laura adds, right, this is how much it's for the design and this is how much I take per unit.
Yeah, so say for example, you've sold a t-shirt for $1 million to ASOS, and then they, in the first month, sell 10,000 units of that t-shirt design, and you have said in your agreement, I want 8% of every sale, or, whatever. You're going to then keep making money off that, and that is very, very, very important, especially if it's for a big client as well and it's going on merchandise, because you don't want to just charge a set fee. You don't know how many they're going to sell, and also you want to think about the time as well. You don't want to sell that to them with the full license and then them sell it in the next 10 years and you still not make any money from it.
Well, this is it. This is where it all comes down. So I've never actually licensed my work. I think I have a few times, but it all depends on what company I'm working for, and it all depends on what's worth my while. I have a client who I've been working with now for years, quite a few years, and I don't charge her a license fee because of the amount of designs I do for her. So it keeps,
so that's your boundary.
It balances out that way. Whereas I've had some new designs where I've not charged them a license fee because I know they're just starting out. These are tester products and their margins are already low.
See, even then though, I still think it's really important. This is what I'm learning. I'm only sort of starting to do this now, to still license. So it's like, this design, I'm going to charge this much for 6 months of usage. And if you want to come back and say, I still want to continue selling this because it's doing well, that then gives them the option. If it's not doing well and they're only just starting out, that's fine, they can leave it. But in 6 months' time, that you can then say, right, I'm going to charge you a small fee to continue it on for another 6 months. Because if you just sell it for you don't know how well that's going to do. That could sell millions. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's a startup, I think. But the startup could do amazing, and then they're making loads of money off your design and you only made 50 quid. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. Yeah, this is something that I'm learning now, because since speaking to Laura about licensing designs, I think because I had a very bad experience once when I did license a design and my email address got blocked from their account and I've not been able to get in touch with them, so I've never actually been paid for the work that I did. Because it was when I was starting out, this company was like, hi, we're looking for an illustrator. We want to do these nail press-on designs and we want to give you 20% of each sale.
20%?
20% of each sale, but we're not paying you. You will get the 20% quarterly.
So it's like commission kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's great. Got my design.
That's a red flag. That's a red flag straight away.
I've been on the website. They've never added these nail designs to the website.
So you just work for free?
So I work for free. And I think then that's what put me off the licensing of it, because I wouldn't know how to keep up with it. And I obviously I have bad trust issues with it. I wouldn't trust them that they're telling me the right figures.
Well, the thing is, that's why you've got to do a contract.
Yeah.
And if they sign that contract, then they've got to do it.
Yeah.
It's a legal document. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could go to small claims court and say, I want this money. But yeah, never, make sure you charge straight away as well.
That might be something I do actually starting from now. I'm going to start licensing, and I'm going
I
to
think
ask
you
you how to do
should.
it.
I think you should. And also, you can license a design that you've done for a company specifically, but you can also license designs that you've already got. So say, for example, I've got this this illustration and someone says, I want to put this on a t-shirt, but I don't want it forever. I can say, right, I'm going to give you the license for just t-shirts. You can't print it on anything else. In the thing, it's in the contract, it's going to say just t-shirts. You can't put it on anything else, and nobody else can have it for these next 6 months. If you don't renew that license in the next 6 months, I can then license it onto somebody else.
Yeah.
And also I can license it for somebody who wants to put this illustration on a wall hanging or on a pencil case, like, stationery, because you haven't bought the license for these 6 months for all of those things, just a t-shirt. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then like when they've finished that 6 months, if they say, yeah, I want it for another 6 months, they can have it for another 6 months. But then after that 6 months, if they say, I don't want it anymore, you can license it again to another company for a t-shirt, and you can like reuse the same design then again. I've never done that, but I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
That's really good for patterns, actually, for you.
Yeah, that's it. So
it's a good for a pattern.
When my website reopens, I'm going to have a pattern shop, so people will be able to pay, and it's an unlimited license.
That's really good,
Which means you can print it on whatever, as long as because it comes under, I have a big like license document that comes with every single sale that says you can have an unlimited license, which means you can use it on whatever you want to print it on, whether it be packaging or harnesses or fabric and stuff like that.
Can I just put in and say, whenever you say harnesses, I know that you're used to doing dog wear, but you never preface that it's dog harnesses. So I always think, oh, sexy.
Dog harnesses. Yeah,
I've never said that before, but when I was editing, I was like, oh, sexy.
It's like, no, not that kind of harness. But because my website, there will be like the same design but in different colorways. When you buy a colorway, that's the only design that you've got. So for example, if you buy the black and white one and there's like a green and yellow one, I can then sell the green and yellow one to somebody else. But I wanted to make something that is affordable for smaller businesses that are starting out, that can't afford my bespoke design services.
And it's good because it's passive income, which is what everyone dreams of.
Well, that's it. That's what
you
I'm
can
trying
run
to
off to
look
Bali
into.
and let them sell themselves.
I love that. Well, that's it. That's the goal. I think it's just to try and have a lot of like income streams, because it is difficult when you solely rely on one kind of income stream as well.
Oh, I can't tell you. Like, when this episode comes out, I'm going to be going to Italy a week after, and I've got to tell you right now, I've got no money in my bank account, so wish me luck over these next few weeks.
I know. I don't know how you're just not stressing.
I am stressing, but I'm just trying to manifest.
Yeah, all that good vibes.
All the good vibes. Yeah. So we've already said this, but I think it's definitely worth saying again. Ask the client for their budget first, because if you're, let's say, I know we keep going back to t-shirt designs, but if, let's say, ballpark figure, you charge £200 for a t-shirt design, and a client comes to you and says, how much you charge for a t-shirt design, and you say £200, they could have been thinking 500 quid. And you would never have known, you could have got paid loads. Whereas if you would have asked them their budget and they said 500, you could then go, oh, actually, that's great. Or you could even say, well, actually, I charge 600, and then they go, right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
and you could have charged 200.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
think though, I think it's safe to preface as well, like, don't take the piss.
No, don't take the piss. But a lot of the time, their budget probably is higher than what they're going to say.
Yeah,
their budget
100%.
Most likely is going to be 800 quid, and they're going to say 500 to try and test their luck. It's like kind of like who goes first. It's like.
Yeah, I think as well, if you if you have like a Google sheet or a spreadsheet of your prices and how much you charge, you have something to go off. Mm-hmm. I always quote higher,
because if they say
higher than what it is, so then it allows me time for revisions and amendments. Mm-hmm. I think that's it. I think that's something else to clarify as well. When you do get, number one, contracts. I think I've said this loads of times.
Important.
Please make people sign contracts. Also on the contract, please explain how many revision rounds and amendment rounds you're going to do. I've had it in the past where I've not specified and they've wanted like fucking so many.
That is the worst. That's the absolute worst.
So
when they're like, can you just change this,
change this, change
that?
that. Exactly. And it's like, it's not worth my time now.
A few's fine, like up to 5 I think's okay.
Yeah, so I include 2 revision rounds in my prices, and any more I charge the hourly rate then.
See, I do, but then sometimes they have asked for over, and like they've done, you know, like 5 revisions, and I'm like, oh, it's fine, because it didn't take me that long. Do you know what I mean?
And also I think it's great to specify that a revision isn't a redesign. So I've had people in the past where I've sent them, so like for example, if I do like branding projects, I've sent them a few logos, a few mock-ups, and then they've chosen one and we've gone through it all, and then they've got to the end and they're like, oh, actually I've been rethinking about this and I want to kind of switch it up. Well, I'm sorry, that's a new brief and that's a new contract. You've paid me for what I've done. Now if you want to go forward with that, this is a new contract and this is a new brief, because that's it, you go off the briefs as well.
That's why I think it's really important. I don't know if you do this, but I really like, once I've like figured out a price and whatever, I like to have a video call, because then we can really like, I think you can really understand what the client wants more than an email.
Yeah, this is something that I've never done before.
Oh, do it every time, you got to do it.
Yeah, I've never done an email, a video call, and it's something that I am going to start doing in future. It's, you know, where you both stand then.
It's like an actual, like a proper conversation where you can be like, oh, they can say, oh, actually, no, I didn't mean that, and you can share your screen, and then that just like, you know what exactly what you're doing then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, but it's good to get someone's budget before
100%
before you do
get
these
their
video
budget
calls,
first,
because it takes some prepping.
Yeah, and also they could, obviously I said, you know, their budget could be £600, but their budget could be £100, and then you can say, sorry, that's not for me, and then all you've done is reply to an email instead of go through. I've had it before where I've done like a video call, done all this, done all that, and then they've said, oh, actually this is too expensive, and I'm like, oh my god, I've wasted all that time and I'm not going to do it.
And like I mentioned before, like I've taken jobs for cheaper than what I would usually, because it's a project that I'm really into,
and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's like I have a list of types of businesses that I want to work with, and if they got in touch with me, or if I sold myself to them, if I emailed them and kind of been like, hi, this is my portfolio, like this is what I want to do, I might have more intention of leeway to move my prices about a little bit, because it's something that I want to do. Whereas if it's something that I don't want to do, I'm less likely to move my prices around.
So I was just selling it at Altrincham Market on, a couple of days ago. I won't go into it, but I'm never selling there ever again. Terrible. Made £6 on the Sunday. And I went into Idaho, which is a really, really cute shop, and it's just like, I walk in and I'm like, oh my god, this is me. Like if I had a shop, I'd have a shop like that. And the manager was in, and I just said to her, I said, it's really nice to meet you, here's my business card, like here's some of my work, if you ever want to like stock any of it, like I'd be really happy to give you some prices, like wholesale prices. And then I said to her, I said, if you ever want any window displays doing, because I've only done a few, I would like to offer it to you for free. You just, you know, have to cover the cost of the pens, or like if I ended up using paint. And she's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And that's okay, because that's my boundary. Whereas if she would have come to me and said, can you do this for 20 quid? I'd have been like, no. And I wouldn't have done it, even though I would have got more money than if I'd have done it for free. Does that make sense?
I think that's it as well. And I think it's okay to work for free if that's something that you want to do.
But only if you want to.
Only if you want to. Don't feel like you have to work for free because your creativity and your talent isn't worth anything. If you know your worth, but you're like, this is something that I want to do, and this opportunity doesn't come round very often. When it comes to pricing yourself, I feel like we need to mention tax. For example, if you want to make 25 grand a year, approximately, you need to bring in 31.
So that extra 6k is for tax and national insurance and everything.
The calculator I used, obviously everybody's situation is different, everybody calculates different things, and also make sure that you're doing your books right, so you don't have any like nasty charges or anything like that,
or go to jail. Every time I've done mine, I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna go to jail? Have I done this right? Because I never keep, like, there's receipts that I've lost. Do you know what I mean? And I just hope for the best. Well, I mean, I'm making that little that the taxman's not going to come knocking on my door. I'm not making millions.
That's it. This year I thought that, I've made decent, like an okay wage, like it's not amazing. I'm looking, I'm like, maybe I haven't earned as much as I thought.
Well, yeah. I'm the same, and like it all depends on how much you spend as well, because obviously if you've got a lot of outgoings, you might see what's coming in, but like when you actually even it out,
yeah, that's
you are
it.
gonna
when your outgoings
owe less
are like
tax.
little here and little there. Also, price take into account your where you're working from, your equipment.
See, I don't do that.
Again,
I just whatever happens.
Again, Kime, the Creative Champs, she has a very in-depth way to figure out the ways that you should be pricing, whether you price yourself hourly. I think it all depends on the type of jobs as well. But like I said, if you do go on the Creative Champs Instagram or see Kime, I think it'd be good if you maybe just drop her a DM and just be like, come from the Do It For Yourself podcast, and they spoke about they spoke about your pricing. Is there any like freebies that you have, or is there any
when's the next workshop?
Key is somebody who I would highly recommend following anyway.
I was just going to say, for me, obviously trying to work out how much you need to put away for tax and sort of like guesstimating how much you want to earn, and then that obviously like each month you can sort of figure out how much you need to make, and that's sort of the way that you can price your projects. So you can price yourself. I think most freelancers do a day rate, so like if they're working for a company, so this is what I learned at my co-working space, they'll do like £350 a day. That's how much they were charging, but obviously they'd come out of the industry, a lot of them, so they were very knowledgeable anyway. Whereas I price per project, so I price dependent, obviously like the Association of Illustrators doesn't say per hour or per day, it just says per project. So because of that, I've sort of based it off that, and I would prefer to do that anyway, because if, like you've said before, if you base it on time or a day rate, you probably end up getting less money, because if you're really highly skilled and you can bash it out in a day, my day rate, if I ever do day rate, is 250 quid, but the project is probably worth maybe £700. Yeah. So do you know what I mean? It's all based on skill. It's not just based on time.
Right. Because if you do price yourself by the hour and you get better at your job, you know, so then you end up pricing less than what you pay pricing before.
Well, I guess your hourly rate would go up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, but I don't know. I think it all depends on what makes you comfortable. I do project based, and I kind of set on, this is how much, this is the starting point, this is how much you charge, and this is what you get for this. Any more amendments will be charged at my hourly rate.
Yeah.
And
I do a higher hourly rate for that. Yeah. I've never done it, but so my hourly rate is at about 30. Whereas I say, like, for extra amendments, for extra time that I wasn't calculating for, 45 quid.
I think it's good to note that just because it takes you X amount of hours doesn't mean that it's just your time that you should be accounted for. It's also you should be accounted for your experience, and you should be accounted for what that business is getting back from you, and how much they are getting back from it. And I think, like I said, it all depends on what you're comfortable pricing. Also, a red flag for a client if they won't give you their budget. Red flag.
Yeah, this has happened to me before with a really big client, and they were like, they never ended up telling me their budget. They just said they couldn't afford me, and I was like, and they're like, that's too expensive. I'm like, well, what do you want then? And they're like, well, what can you do? And I'm like, what? Like, they just wanted me to explain it, and I explained it, and they didn't get it. But another thing I was going to say was, if you just charge for your time, so let's say, for example, you're thinking, right, in order to live and on, like, you know, what I want to live. So let's say you're saying to yourself, right, I want £20 an hour to live off. You obviously also need to account for your business overheads, because you're not going to have that if you work minimum wage somewhere. Yeah. But then obviously you've obviously also got to think about your tax, all of this, blah, 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 blah. So really, you need to charge a lot more than your £20 an hour, maybe like 40 an hour, to make sure that you're still taking home that £20 an hour for your actual self. And then the rest is for your business, because we've got our own businesses at the end of the day. Well, like, you've got to like, see, I don't do this either. Like, every single bit of money goes to my living expenses, and I don't account for anything else. So like, if my laptop breaks now, I'm fucked, because I've not got that part, and that's really important. And this is something we need to preface, like, if you can do this, like, let's say you're living at home and you haven't got rent to pay, or you've not got a studio to pay for, and you don't spend that money like I did. Keep it to the side, because if my laptop breaks now, I can't do work, but I also can't pay for it because I've not got the work on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You really need to think about it. It's not, so when I feel like, especially small businesses, if you're saying to them, I charge £40 an hour, they're like, whoa, minimum wage is like $8. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but
that's so high, but it's not
the same.
It's not
really,
the same.
really not the same.
So as a freelancer, you need to charge a lot more, and people don't realise that.
No.
And you're not getting £40 an hour.
When someone says, oh, my hourly rate is £40, they're not receiving that £40 an hour.
No, it's not all going in my pocket.
No,
I'm not spending all this in Topshop.
No.
Oh, Topshop.
Rest in peace.
Sorry.